Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. In the shadows of a city that never slept, beneath the veneer of ordinary life, an unseen world pulsed with magic and menace. Lana moved silently through the crowded streets, her eyes scanning the faces of oblivious pedestrians. The neon lights reflected off puddles on the asphalt, casting a kaleidoscope of colors that danced around her as she weaved through the throng. She pulled the hood of her cloak tighter, shielding herself from both the drizzling rain and prying eyes. Lana was no ordinary woman. Raised within the austere halls of the Shadow Council, she was a necromancer of formidable skill. The Council, an assembly of the most powerful dark sorcerers, manipulated the threads of fate from behind the curtain of reality. They orchestrated events with calculated precision, ensuring their dominion remained unchallenged. But Lana had seen too much, learned secrets that churned her stomach and weighed heavily on her conscience. Her defection was not taken lightly. The council had dispatched their most relentless enforcers to retrieve her, dead or alive. The mark of the betrayer now adorned wanted posters in the hidden corners of the magical underworld. She was a fugitive, but she was free, or as free as one could be while constantly looking over their shoulder. Tonight, she sought an audience with the rebels, a motley crew rumored to oppose the council's tyranny. Information about them was scarce, but whispers pointed her to the Gilded Cage, an underground jazz club that served as a front for all manner of illicit dealings. As she approached the entrance, the muffled sounds of a saxophone seeped through the cracks of the heavy wooden door. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the aroma of spiced rum. Patrons huddled around small tables, their conversations masked by the soulful melody emanating from the stage. Lana's eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, and she spotted a figure matching the description she'd been given: a man with a silver streak in his dark hair and a jagged scar crossing his left eyebrow. "Marcus," she whispered as she slid into the seat across from him. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," she replied, pulling back her hood to reveal eyes that glowed faintly with an otherworldly light. "But we share a common enemy." Marcus leaned back, suspicion etched on his face. "Bold of you to show yourself here. The council has eyes everywhere." "I'm counting on it," she said, placing a sealed envelope on the table between them. "This contains information that could cripple them. But I can't do it alone." He glanced at the envelope but didn't touch it. "Why should I trust you? For all I know, you're leading them straight to us." "Because I'm the only one who can read what's inside," she said, her voice steady. "And because I've already burned my bridges. There's no going back for me." Before Marcus could respond, the lights flickered, a subtle sign that magic was in play. Lana's heart raced. "They're here," she whispered. Marcus sprang into action. "Follow me." They darted through a side door into a narrow hallway. The sounds of the club faded as they descended a spiral staircase that seemed to go on endlessly. The air grew colder, and the walls glistened with a faint luminescence. "Where are we going?" Lana asked, her footsteps echoing. "Somewhere Safia for now," Marcus replied. They emerged into a cavernous room lined with ancient runes. A group of individuals turned to face the Ama Elena, a healer with emerald eyes, Darius, a towering warrior wielding a blade that shimmered with enchantments, and Jin, a technomancer surrounded by floating holographic screens. "This is her?" Elena asked skeptically. "Yes," Marcus affirmed. "Lana, meet the rebellion." Lana felt a mix of relief and apprehension. "I have information that can help us bring down the council," she said, holding up the envelope. Jin raised an eyebrow. "And why would a necromancer betray her own?" "Because they're planning something catastrophic," Lana replied. "A ritual that will merge the shadow realm with the human world, plunging both into eternal darkness." Silence filled the room as the weight of her words settled in. Darius clenched his fist. "We've heard rumors, but nothing concrete." "I've seen the preparations," Lana insisted. "They're harnessing the souls of the innocent to fuel the ritual." "We have to stop them." Marcus exchanged glances with the others. "Assuming you're telling the truth, How do we proceed? Lana took a deep breath. We need to sever their power sources and destroy the conduits that link them to the shadow realm. Without them, the ritual can't be completed. Elena stepped forward. And you can lead us to these conduits? Yes, Lana nodded. But they're heavily guarded. We'll need a plan and resources. Jin smirked. Resources we have. Plans so we can make. Over the next few days, they strategized. Maps were unfurled across tables, arcane symbols annotated with notes in various languages. Lana shared everything she knew about the Council's operations, their hierarchies, and their weaknesses. As they worked, Lana found herself drawn to the group's camaraderie, a stark contrast to the cold, calculating environment she had known within the Council. Yet, a shadow lingered over her. The pull of necromancy was strong, and the temptation to use it in ways she'd sworn off gnawed at her. One evening, as she practiced spellwork with Elena, the healer noticed her distraction. Something's bothering you, Elena said gently. Lana hesitated. I'm afraid of what I might become. Necromancy isn't exactly a benevolent art. Elena placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Your power doesn't define you. It's how you choose to use it that matters. Before Lana could respond, alarms blared throughout the hideout. Jin's holographic screens flashed red. We've got incoming. A council enforcers breached the outer wards. Chaos erupted as everyone prepared for battle. Darius armed himself, and Marcus barked orders to secure vital equipment. Lana's heart pounded. This was the moment she'd been dreading. The first wave hit hard. Dark figures cloaked in shadow stormed the entrance, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Spells crackled through the air, and the metallic scent of magic clashed with the smoke from smoldering ruins. Lana found herself face to face with one of the enforcers, a sorcerer she recognized from her past. His face twisted into a cruel grin. Thought you could escape us, Lana? He sneered. She summoned a barrier just in time to deflect a bolt of dark energy he hurled at her. I won't go back, she declared. He laughed. Who said anything about taking you back? The council has deemed you expendable. Anger flared within her, and she felt the familiar surge of necromantic energy. With a swift motion, she unleashed a wave of force that sent him crashing into a wall. The shadows around him dissipated as he slumped unconscious. The battle raged on, but the rebels held their ground. Eventually, the enforcers retreated, melting back into the darkness from whence they came. Breathless, Lana surveyed the aftermath. The hideout was damaged, but they had survived. Marcus approached her, his expression grim yet respectful. You held your own. She nodded, though her hands trembled. They'll be back and in greater numbers. Then we need to move, Jin interjected. They've likely tracked our location. Staying here isn't an option. Over the next few hours, they gathered what they could and prepared to relocate. As they loaded the last of the equipment, Marcus pulled Lana aside. We have a safe house outside the city. We'll regroup there. Understood, she replied. The journey was tense. They traveled in separate vehicles, taking circuitous routes to avoid detection. Lana rode with Elena, who drove with a steady focus. How are you holding up? Elena asked. Honestly, I'm terrified, Lana admitted. But I can't let that stop me. Elena smiled softly. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. They arrived at a secluded estate that nestled amidst towering pines. The safe house was more fortified than the previous hideout, with protective wards shimmering faintly around its perimeter. Inside, they reconvened to reassess their plans. The attack had set them back, but it also confirmed the urgency of their mission. We can't keep running, Darius said, frustration evident in his tone. We need to strike back. Agreed, Marcus replied. But we can't be reckless. Lana stepped forward. There might be a way to turn the tables. The council doesn't know that we have the means to disrupt their ritual. If we can infiltrate their stronghold and destroy the primary conduit, we can stop them. Jin raised an eyebrow. Their stronghold? You mean the Shadow Spire? It's impenetrable. Not entirely, Lana countered. There's a hidden passage, a remnant from when the spire was first constructed. It's guarded by wards attuned to the council's magic, but I can bypass them. Silence filled the room as everyone contemplated the risks. Then we have no choice, Marcus finally said. We prepare for infiltration. The days that followed were a blur of preparation. Lana worked closely with Jin to develop counterspells and devices to neutralize the council's defenses. Darius trained relentlessly, honing his combat skills, while Elena prepared healing potions and protective charms. Amidst the flurry of activity, Lana couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, and whispers echoed in the quiet moments. One night, unable to sleep, she ventured outside to clear her mind. The forest was serene, the moon casting silver beams through the canopy. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath of the crisp air. "You've strayed far from your path," a voice whispered. Her eyes snapped open. Standing before her was Serafini, one of the council's grand sorceresses, a woman as enigmatic as she was powerful. "Serafini," Lana breathed, instinctively reaching for a defensive spell. "Relax," Serafini said, her tone almost soothing. "If I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be speaking." "Then what do you want?" "To offer you a chance to return," Serafini replied. "The council is willing to pardon your transgressions. All you need to do is come back." Lana shook her head. "I won't be a pawn in their game." Serafini sighed. "You're misguided, child. The council seeks balance. The merging of realms is necessary to restore harmony, at the cost of countless lives. That's not balance, it's tyranny." A flicker of irritation crossed Serafini's face. "You've been corrupted by these rebels. They fill your head with lies." "They've shown me the truth," Lana retorted. "Something the council never did." Serafini's eyes hardened. "So be it. When the time comes, don't say I didn't offer you an escape." With that, she vanished into the shadows, leaving Lana alone with her racing thoughts. Returning to the safe house, Lana gathered the others and recounted the encounter. "She found you here?" Marcus asked, alarmed. "I don't think she knows the exact location," Lana assured him, "but it's only a matter of time." "Then we move up our timeline," Jin suggested. "We strike tomorrow." Preparations intensified. As dawn broke, they stood ready at the threshold of the Shadow Realm. Using a combination of Jin's technology and Lana's magic, they opened a portal that shimmered like a mirage. "There's no turning back after this," Darius stated. "Was there ever?" Elena replied, stepping through the portal. The Shadow Realm was a stark contrast to the human world. The sky was a swirling mass of dark clouds, and the landscape was filled with twisted spires and obsidian structures. The air was thick with arcane energy, making every breath feel heavy. They moved swiftly, sticking to the shadows. The entrance to the hidden passage was concealed behind an illusionary wall near the base of the shadow spire. Lana whispered an incantation, and the wall dissolved, revealing a narrow corridor lined with pulsating runes. "Stay close," she instructed. As they navigated the passage, the runes reacted to their presence, emitting a low hum. Lana focused her energy to keep the wards at bay, but the strain was palpable. They reached a chamber where the primary conduit stood, a monolithic crystal that pulsed with dark light, connected to the very heart of the council's power. "This is it," Jin said, awe in his voice. Before they could proceed, Serafini appeared, flanked by council enforcers. "Foolish," she mocked. "Did you really think you could outmaneuver us?" Battle erupted. Spells flew in all directions, illuminating the chamber with flashes of light and shadow. Darius engaged the enforcers, his blade clashing against their dark weapons. Elena moved swiftly, casting protective spells over her comrades. Lana faced Serafini, the two circling each other like predatory animals. "You could have been great," Serafini taunted. "I choose to be good," Lana retorted. They exchanged volleys of magic, each spell met with a counter. The air crackled with energy as their powers clashed. In a desperate move, Lana channeled the full extent of her necromancy, summoning spectral chains that bound Serafini. "You can't hold me forever," Serafini hissed. "I don't need to," Lana replied, glancing at Marcus. who was setting charges around the conduit. "Time to go," Marcus shouted. The team regrouped, making a hasty retreat back through the passage. Serafini's screams echoed behind them as she struggled against the bindings. They emerged into the open just as the conduit exploded, a shockwave rippling through the shadow realm. The ground trembled, and the sky cracked, light pouring through the fissures. "Run," Marcus commanded. They sprinted toward the portal, the realm collapsing around them. With a final leap, they crossed back into the human world, tumbling onto the forest floor as the portal sealed shut behind them. Breathless and battered, they watched as the night sky returned to its serene state. "Did we do it?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lana nodded, a weary smile forming. "The ritual is stopped. The council's power is broken." Relief washed over them, but it was tempered by the losses they'd endured. The fight had cost them dearly, and the future remained uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, hope glimmered on the horizon. The aftermath of their daring escape left the group scattered across the forest floor, each member grappling with the enormity of what they'd just accomplished. The cool night air was filled with the scent of pine and the distant sounds of nocturnal creatures stirring. Lana lay on her back, staring up at the canopy of stars that now seemed brighter than ever before. "We did it," Jin murmured, his voice tinged with disbelief. He sat up, adjusting his glasses that had been knocked askew during their hasty retreat. Marcus stood, offering a hand to Elena, who accepted it gratefully. "The council's grip has been broken," he said, a note of cautious optimism in his tone. "But we can't assume they're gone for good." Darius sheathed his blade, the metal glinting briefly in the starlight. "They'll need time to regroup, if they can at all," he said. "Their power was tied to that conduit." Elena moved to Lena's side, her eyes reflecting concern. "Are you all right?" Lana nodded slowly. "Just exhausted." "Using that much necromancy, it takes a toll." "Rest," Elena urged. "You've earned it." As the group began to gather themselves, a soft rustling caught their attention. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in tattered robes. Everyone tensed, weapons at the ready. "Peace," the figure said, raising empty hands. As he stepped into the light, his withered face revealed a man of indeterminate age, eyes wise and weary. "I come bearing news." "Who are you?" Marcus demanded. "I am Alaric, a chronicler of magic's ebb and flow," he replied. "I felt the surge at the breaking of the council's conduit." Lana studied him cautiously. "What do you want with us?" "Only to offer insight," Alaric said. "The collapse of the conduit has sent ripples through the realms. There will be consequences." Jin frowned. "What kind of consequences?" "The balance has been disrupted," Alaric explained. "While the council's tyranny was a blight, their presence maintained a certain equilibrium. Power vacuums invite chaos." Darius crossed his arms. "So you're saying we've traded one problem for another?" "Not necessarily," Alaric said. "But you must be vigilant. New factions will rise, some perhaps even more dangerous." Lana exchanged glances with her companions. "Then we'll deal with them as they come." Alaric nodded approvingly. "A wise stance." "If you ever seek knowledge, find me at the archive beneath the old cathedral." With that, he faded back into the forest, leaving them pondering his words. "We should get back," Marcus suggested. "There's much to do." They returned to the safe house, which, despite its previous compromise, remained secure for the time being. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly to assess the new landscape of the magical world. Reports trickled in of rogue sorcerers and liberated territories. The council's absence had indeed created unrest. One evening, as they gathered around a crackling fireplace, Elena brought up a pressing concern. "We've been so focused on the council, but what about the people they've oppressed? There must be chaos out there." "She's right," Jen agreed. "We have a responsibility to help stabilize things." Marcus leaned forward. "I propose we form an alliance, a coalition of sorts to guide the transition. We can't allow another tyrannical force to take root." Darius nodded. "I've contacts among the warrior clans who would support this." Lana listened thoughtfully. "It's ambitious, but necessary. We need to ensure that magic is used to protect, not dominate. Over the following weeks, they reached out to various groups of mages, warriors, healers, and even non-magical humans who had been affected by the council's machinations. Meetings were held in secret locations, and slowly, a network of allies began to form. One afternoon, Lana decided to visit Alaric at the archive. Curiosity and a desire for guidance drove her to seek him out. The old cathedral stood as a relic of bygone times, its once grand spires now crumbling but still majestic. Descending into the crypts beneath, she found the archive via a vast repository of scrolls, books, and artifacts. Alaric sat at a desk piled high with parchments, a single candle illuminating his focused expression. "You came," he said without looking up. "I did," Lana replied. "I wanted to learn more about the balance you spoke of." Alaric gestured for her to sit. "The world is a tapestry of forces, light and dark, order and chaos." The council tipped the scales, but their removal has swung it in the other direction. "How do we restore equilibrium?" she asked. "By embracing all aspects of magic," Alaric said. "Not shunning the dark, but understanding it. Not idolizing the light, but respecting it. You, Lena, stand at the intersection of these forces." She considered his words. "I want to use my abilities for good, but I'm afraid of the darkness within me." "Do not fear it," Alaric advised. "Fear leads to suppression, and suppression breeds corruption. Accept who you are, and channel it purposefully." Lana left the archive with a renewed sense of clarity. Returning to the safe house, she found Marcus and the others engaged in a heated discussion. "What's going on?" she inquired. "We've received word that a splinter group is causing havoc downtown," Jin explained. "They're former council loyalists, seizing territories and imposing their own rule." "Then we need to stop them," Lana declared. That night, they moved swiftly through the city streets. The splinter group had taken over an old bank building, fortifying it with makeshift barricades and dark enchantments. "What's the plan?" Darius asked as they observed from a nearby rooftop. "Direct confrontation could result in unnecessary casualties," Marcus mused. "We need to neutralize their leader." Jin tapped his wrist device. "I can disable their external defenses, but we'll still have to deal with the guards inside." "Leave that to us," Elena said, nodding to Darius. Lana focused her energy, recalling Alaric's advice. "I'll handle the leader. Trust me." They moved into action. Jin's devices emitted a low-frequency pulse that disrupted the enchantments around the building. Elena and Darius incapacitated the guards with precision and minimal force. Lana slipped inside, ascending the stairs to the top floor where the leader, a sorcerer named Malvek, held court. He was surrounded by followers, their expressions a mix of fear and fanaticism. "Malvek," Lana called out, stepping into the open. He turned, surprise flashing across his face. "Lana?" The council's traitor. "To what do I owe this pleasure?" "I'm here to offer you a chance to stand down," she said calmly. He laughed derisively. "Why would I do that?" "With the council gone, power is up for grabs." "Power without purpose is meaningless," Lana countered. "You're only repeating the mistakes of the past." "Spare me your sanctimony," he sneered. "I will rebuild the council in my image." She felt the darkness within her stir but remained composed. "I won't let you harm innocent lives." "Try and stop me," he challenged, launching a bolt of dark energy. Lana deflected it with ease, her hands weaving intricate patterns as she cast a binding spell. Malvek struggled against invisible chains, his eyes widening in panic. "Release me," he demanded. "Not until you agree to disband your followers and cease this madness," she replied firmly. The room filled with tension as his acolytes watched, unsure of what to do. Marcus and the others arrived, securing the area. Realizing he was defeated, Malvek slumped. "Fine," he spat. "Have it your way." Lana released the binding spell, and he was taken into custody. The acolytes dispersed, their ranks broken. Back at the safe house, the group debriefed. "That was impressive," Marcus told Lena, "You handled that without unnecessary force." "Alaric helped me see that confronting darkness doesn't mean succumbing to it," she said. Speaking of Alaric, Jen interjected, "I've been analyzing some of the artifacts he lent us. There's potential to create a stabilization device that could help restore balance between the realms." Elena looked intrigued. "You think it could work?" "With the right components and enough power, yes," Jen confirmed. Over the next few days, they collaborated with Alaric and other allies to construct the device. It was a complex amalgamation of ancient magic and modern technology, requiring precise synchronization. As they prepared to activate it, Alaric issued a warning. "This will require a significant energy source. Are you prepared to make the necessary sacrifice?" "What kind of sacrifice?" Lena asked cautiously. "A personal one," Alaric said, his gaze resting on her. "Your connection to both realms makes you the ideal conduit." The group protested. "There must be another way," Marcus insisted. Lena raised a hand to silence them. "If this is what it takes to restore balance, I'm willing to do it." They relocated to a nexus point where the veil between realms was thinnest. Standing at the center of a circle inscribed with arcane symbols, Lena closed her eyes as the device hummed to life. Energy surged through her, a torrent of light and shadow intertwining. Memories flashed before her time with the council, the faces of those she'd lost, the friendships she'd forged. The ground trembled, and a beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. The air crackled with power as the realms began to realign. Elena shouted over the din. "You have to let go." But Lena was lost within the vortex of energy. She felt herself dissolving, becoming one with the very fabric of magic itself. In a final act of will, she channeled all her strength into the device, completing the stabilization. The beam dissipated, and the trembling ceased. Lena collapsed, the world around her fading to darkness. When she awoke, she found herself lying in a meadow bathed in golden sunlight. The air was fragrant with wildflowers, and a gentle breeze caressed her face. "Am I dead?" she wondered aloud. "Far from it," a familiar voice answered. She turned to see Alaric approaching. "Where are we?" "A space between," he explained. "A place of reflection." "Did it work?" she asked. "Yes," he smiled. "The balance has been restored." "Thanks to you," she sighed with relief. "What happens now?" "That is up to you," Alaric said. "You can return to your world, continue to guide and protect, or you can rest." Lena pondered his words. "There's still so much to do." "I want to go back," he nodded approvingly. "Very well." In an instant, she was back at the nexus point, surrounded by her friends. Relief washed over their faces as they realized she was all right. "You scared us," Marcus admitted. "Never do that again," Elena chided gently, tears in her eyes. Jen gave a thumbs up. "The readings are stable." "You did it." Darius clasped her shoulder. "You're a true warrior." In the days that followed, the effects of their actions became apparent. The realms settled into a harmonious coexistence, and the chaotic outbreaks diminished. The coalition they'd formed grew stronger, evolving into an organization dedicated to maintaining the newfound peace. One evening, as they gathered atop a hill overlooking the city, Marcus raised a glass to Lana, whose courage and sacrifice made all this possible. They toasted, the clinking of glasses punctuating the serene night. "So what's next for us?" Jen mused. "We continue the work," Elena said. "There's always more good to be done." Lana smiled softly. "And perhaps we can finally live, not just survive." They sat in comfortable silence, each contemplating the journey that had brought them together. As the stars twinkled above, Lana felt a sense of contentment. The darkness within her was still there, but it no longer held sway over her. She had embraced it, understood it, and in doing so, found her true self. "Whatever comes," she said quietly, "we'll face it together." The others nodded in agreement. And so, under the vast expanse of the night sky, their story continued, a tale of redemption, unity, and the enduring power of hope.